simple diction? I sure can try. And if I tend to utilize and pontificate in a manner that elevates the verbiage such where it tends to complicate matters for the proletariat, please don't hesitate to raise your hand and say, Rabbi, just knock it down enough. Ein baya, hakol beseder. Okay, thank you for that kind request. You should still have it in front of you, the packet that we gave out yesterday that started with the number 4. It said Strategies for Student Success, Roman numeral 2. I don't want you to use it yet, although you could have it open, it's not a problem. And I would like to ask everyone to please take out either a blank piece of paper or find something that they could flip over. We're going to model something that I think is valuable for us to utilize, and that's something called a 1-minute paper. A 1-minute paper really usually has 2 components to it. You ask for the number 1, you can put a number 1 at the top, and what I'd like for you to do is to please write down something meaningful that you remember from yesterday's class, something important, significant, that you recall. It could be more than one thing, but minimally one thing, ideally in complete sentences, but it could be in bullet form. We did talk about that depending on your time frame. That might be a trigger right there. Number 2, leave yourself some space. Number 2, I would like for you to please write down something where you might have still had a question, either because I used highfalutin language and it wasn't clear, or simply because the concept needs a little bit more beer for whatever the reason. That would be number 2. Those are typically the complete 1-minute picture, 1-minute paper. But I would like, for our purposes, for you to add a number 3. And at the bottom of the paper somewhere, I would like for you to please try to think back to a test-taking experience where you think you kind of messed up or could have done better, other than, of course, you could have studied more effectively. And please write down what you remember from that moment and how, if you had the opportunity to revisit that moment, to go back in time and take that test again, maybe you would approach it differently. So I'm going to go back for all of our non-auditory learners. I'm going to go back and repeat all 3 things I'd like for you to do because I don't have a board on which to write at the moment. Number 1, something meaningful that you took away from yesterday's conversation. It was about note-taking. Okay, something meaningful that you took away from our conversation yesterday. If you can't remember, because usually I would ask you to do it at the end of the class, you can look at your notes, it's fine. Number 2, if there was an area of confusion or maybe an area that could use a little bit of additional clarification, please write that down over there. And oh, you found it, great. And do I have it? Oh, wow, even better. And number 3, think back to a time that you took a test and try to think about where maybe you could have approached it a little bit differently and what strategy you would use and maybe teach to your students if you had the opportunity to do it again. Let's take a couple of minutes. Pause that, please.